Hi everybody and welcome back to Toons Reviews Film. I hope you're all doing well out there and I'm very happy to see you all back again. Today we're going to cover my top 5 selections from A24, so if you're interested in seeing that, stay tuned. Coming at number 5 is an Ari Aster a film, and this one was kind of a toss-up for me between the two because I think that they're both very, very wonderfully done films that are both very artistic and showcase his talent as a whole in both character development and environment and aesthetic when it comes to telling a creepy psychological horror film. So I think that Hereditary has the leg up on Midsommar personally, not by much, but just Toni Collette's performance alone really just captures the embodiment of what it is to tell an original horror film with those psychological elements, and she just killed it. She deserved her Oscar nomination for that film, and frankly, it is one of the best performances I've seen in the last few years. So that film really does showcase what it's like to be grieving in a family as a whole, while simultaneously dealing with some supernatural elements. This film is what I love about cinema. The ending especially had me perplexed to when I left the movie theater. I couldn't decide whether or not I actually enjoyed it. The ending specifically. I knew that I enjoyed the film up until the last maybe 15-20 minutes of the film, but it really took me some pondering on whether or not I enjoyed what it was the film was trying to say and or what it was bringing to the table, and eventually I ended up enjoying what it was that it was trying to accomplish, and I think that it accomplished it very, very well. So the film as a whole is pretty much a masterpiece in my opinion, and it's just so well crafted. So that is why Hereditary comes in at number 5 and is one of my favorite horror films of the last few years. Coming in at number 4 is a film that I neglected to watch for quite a long time. I didn't see it right when it had come out. In fact, I had only seen it maybe about 2 years ago, and that is First Reformed with Ethan Hawke. This film affected me. This is such a great character study. It's such an intimate experience with a priest played by Ethan Hawke who's experiencing his doubt in spiritualism, and he is a recovering sinner in many ways, and he's still a sinner in many ways, but it's a very, very intimate tale on depression, and there's even some environmental commentary on what's happening in our world around us and our inability to stay transfixed on one another, and this development of and the industrial development and how it's affected our world, and even how technology has affected who we are, and kind of keeping up with appearances in a way. There's a lot of pressure, and I think that this film really delves into that psychological aspect of what it means to be a good person. I absolutely loved this film. It's depressing, it's bleak, it's dark, but it also is majestic in a way. It's beautifully shot, and it's just one of those contained stories that you walk away from it and you feel like you've been punched in the stomach in a way where it's so emotional. And I really do give Ethan Hawke props on his performance in the film. He did such a wonderful job. In fact, probably his career best in my opinion. So I highly recommend First Reformed if you haven't seen it. It is absolutely breathtaking, especially in its imagery and the allegories and everything that it's trying to say through the utilization of metaphors. Absolutely wonderfully crafted film that I cannot recommend enough. Number 3 is American Honey, which I've already previously talked about on my channel. It is a wonderful story told through the lens of Sasha Lane and Shia LaBeouf, a character who she meets at a grocery store, who she feels like she can kind of admire a bit and feels like can kind of change her life in a positive way in terms of her being able to experience new things in life. Shia LaBeouf giving one of his best performances in my opinion, and Sasha Lane absolutely killing it. These two take us on a road trip, which we get to experience ourselves, especially with the runtime of the film. I believe it's around the 2.5 hour mark, maybe even leaning more toward 3. And we really do get to experience these moment-to-moment depictions in life that they have, and also get to experience the sorrow and loneliness of not knowing anybody while you're kind of experiencing life and its grand experience on the road. And I think that the combination of intimacy and this lonely feeling is very, very harrowing and difficult. And it's also very gritty in the same way that we've seen films like Kids provide, a lens to be told on how we see kids behaving or teenagers behaving, done by Larry Clark. It's very, very similar in that way, where it's hyper realistic. And that might be a tough pill for some people to swallow, but I think that the film is absolutely gorgeous. I love the lighting, I love the color palette, and I think that it's absolutely worthwhile checking out. Number 2 and number 1 are generally a toss-up for me, but I usually come to the same consensus. So, without further ado, number 2 is The Florida Project. The Florida Project is a heartbreakingly realistic depiction of adulthood while dealing with maybe having quite a few different obstacles going against you, maybe not having the education that you need, maybe being born into a cycle where your parents aren't around as much, and dealing with drug abuse and even sex work as a means for making an income. This is simultaneously happening while you are envisioning the world through the lens of children and how this affects the kids, and you see a lot of their imagination, and it's really beautiful how they cultivate their little stories and their relationships with one another while their parents are quite realistically a dumpster fire. And we get to see a lot of this also through an objective lens that also doesn't have much to say or contribute more than us just seeing how things really are through Willem Dafoe's character. And he is the owner of this motel, or manager of this motel, where a lot of these parents are renting out rooms as a means to live permanently. So the combination of these children's performances, which I believe were all just real children that they basically scooped up off of the street. They weren't trained actors for the most part. And the performance of Willem Dafoe, who gives such a holistic, just genuine performance, and he's kind and he's thoughtful when it comes to these children and their lives, but also you see that he's flawed with his own relationship with his son in the film. It's just a very, very heartbreaking tale, and I every time I watch the film, I cry my eyes out. So The Florida Project comes in at number 2, and I think it's such a wonderful, wonderful, realistic, and raw film that you should all check out. And my number 1, because it has inspired me so freaking much, just with the atmosphere, the cinematography, the aspect ratio of how the film was shot, and more than anything, the writing and the character development and how these characters are depicted by both Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe. If you hadn't guessed already, it is The Lighthouse, which I am a sucker for a black and white film to begin with, never mind the fact that it is absolutely gorgeous and masterfully crafted by Robert Eggers and his brother. This film is, it's just art. It's art. We have this kind of hyper-realistic approach to the stillness of what it is to be a wiki man that's melded very, very well with the fantastical of like mermaids and sea stories, and you have this Captain Abe type character who's taking on a brand new greenhorn wiki, and kind of just seeing the two of them smash against each other and their personalities, and this push and pull is just so magnificent to watch. And it's, the entire film is resting on these two characters. There is a third actor in the film, which if you haven't seen the film, I don't want to say who it is and who they depict, but most of the runtime is really just resting on Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe's performances, and it just captivates you from scene one. And I absolutely adore the film. It has truly inspired me on many different levels, and it's cinema. It's what filmmaking and watching film and critiquing film is all about, really. I think that it's such a masterpiece. It's like a true 10 out of 10 in my opinion. So that about wraps it all up. This is my top 5 A24 recommendations. I think that there are so many wonderful A24 films. I think especially as time has gone on, they become even more special and even more well-crafted than the earlier work, with Spring Breakers and stuff like that. But I hope you all enjoyed my top 5 list. Let me know in the comments down below what your top 5 or top 10 A24 movies are, and we can have an open discussion about it. I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you all soon. Bye, everyone.